So I'm sure most of you guys who are watching this video right now, especially if you are a Richmond fan, would know that the Tigers, unfortunately, in the last year or two, have suffered an insane amount of injuries. In fact, I'm pretty sure not only did the Tigers have probably the most injuries last year, I think at one stage it was like the most games missed as well. But it's not like they didn't have injuries that weren't massive. And I think that was the big thing that all Richmond fans were looking at, is pretty much every single time a Tigers player would get hurt, it wouldn't be some little minor hamstring injury that would be a 1 or 2 weeker. You would have players going down with ACLs left, right, and center. Players who were just tearing their hamstring and having 8 weeks on the sideline. All of the above, to where it got to the point where Richmond fans were just genuinely so confused. Of course, the Tigers did a lot of different things. I believe they fired their performance manager and coach, and I think they really shuffled around a lot of the management that was dealing with the injuries at the time, because when you think about it, the Tigers had that many injuries that it got to the point where it wasn't just bad luck anymore. It got to the point where it was very clear that a lot of these injuries were caused because of the programs that Richmond were doing, clearly because of how the management was handling the players, etc., etc. Again, one instance that I think a lot of Richmond fans remember was when Judson Clark partially tore his ACL in a VFL game, and instead of bringing him off and working with him, the Tigers basically sent him back out there, and I think he had a shot at goal, kicked the goal, and tore his ACL, and is now out for legitimately a whole year. I think he'll miss probably the majority of 2025, and it was just absolutely disgusting. So Richmond, at the end of the day, they got a new management in. They paid apparently a lot of big bucks to bring a guy in by the name of Ben Serpel to try and fix these things. Unfortunately though, even though it looks like they are slowly but surely fixing it, the Tigers have already ran into some very, very early injuries that are somewhat concerning and somewhat already pissing me off and other Richmond fans out there, because it is a little bit weird. Again, some of these injuries have just happened over the off-season, and some of these injuries just happened in the Richmond vs West Coast practice game that I'm kind of yet to talk about on the channel. So again, I'd like to start off by really talking about that game and some of the injuries that the Tigers had in that, because yet again, like the common theme of Richmond having like 2 to 3 injuries every game last year, this game that Richmond played against West Coast in a practice game, match sim basically, was legitimately like half the size of a normal AFL game, and they already had 2 injuries, and that's just from what we know publicly. Of course, Sam Lawler was the big one who kind of disgustingly got pushed into another guy where he basically fractured his jaw, got concussion. And the reason I say disgustingly is because this was a really crappy football act by Ruben Ginbey, who I'm 90% sure, as a guy who has played footy for most of my life, I'm telling you right now that Ruben Ginbey would have had a pretty fair idea that there was very, very minimal time left in the game. They are up by 40 to 50 points. It is a match practice game, an unofficial match practice game, and he decides to deliberately push Sam Lawler while he was in the air and most vulnerable into his own teammate. This wasn't a guy who was trying to protect space or anything like that, because if he really wanted to, he could have bumped him. He could have, I know it probably would have been a free against him, but he could have tried to shepherd. He just flat out, I'm certain with the intention, wanted to probably hurt Sam Lawler here and make an impact on this game and show that he's, I guess, tough to his coaches and whatnot, because you can deliberately, as Day sees it, he jumps in the air and he just shoves him with full force into his own defender, not even trying to clear the space, because he pushes him into his own defender. Like, yeah, it's a dog act. I don't really think he probably should be suspended, but again, I hope that, next time Richmond see him, there's some words said, because yeah, it's a dog act, it's a crappy act in the end of a football game that has like 20 seconds left. a freaking match practice game that was you're up by 50 points. Yeah, Lawler is probably going to miss round 1. You know, his fractured jaw it's a 4 to 8 week recovery for most. You don't probably recover in the 3 weeks that we have until round 1, 3.5 weeks or so. I think, yeah, Sam Lawler will probably miss round 1. It's really crappy. And yeah, Ruben Jinby, yeah, pretty big dog act, to be honest. But the other one I wanted to talk about, because this is the one that I think is pissing a lot of people off, is Hugo Ralphsmith tearing his hamstring. And the reason why this is concerning, because yet again, this is not a 1 to 2 weeker injury like literally every club has. Anytime you see a club have a player do a hamstring, it's most likely that guy will be back in 2 weeks. It's always 8 weeks with Richmond players, and it was like that last year, and we kind of figured it'd be the same thing, you know, fixed in this year. It wouldn't be the same thing, I should say. But yeah, it's being said, it is unfortunate for Hugo. I think that we're working so close to the margins all the time. We're going to get 1 or 2 here and there. He's back into some rehab already. He was already out running on Friday, and we've got a game plan set in place for him. We will be conservative as we go, but as I said, it's unfortunate for him. Again, as a lot of people are reporting what Richmond said on their website, he will miss the early games of the year, meaning that let's just say he misses 2 of those games, right? Richmond don't play round 1 for about 3.5 weeks at the time making this video. That means that realistically, he's going to miss like 5 weeks, and that's just from what we know. He could very well miss 6 or 7, which, again, it is very frustrating, right? I got to rant a little bit here because I can't remember the last time I saw a Richmond player do a hamstring and it was like a 2-weeker. Every time a player on Richmond does a hamstring, it's a 4 to 5 weeker, and it really doesn't make any sense. It didn't make any sense last year, and that's why everyone got fired. And it already doesn't make sense that the first guy who does it is already out for a long time. What is going on there? Are we just judging this one to really bad luck, or is there more to it? Because if I see another player or two do a hamstring against Collingwood, and it's all 5 weekers, something is suspiciously up here. It's not right, and it wouldn't make any sense. So I really hope that isn't the case. Again, some other updates. Again, Josh Smiley is doing well from his hamstring. He's expected to play against Collingwood, so that's really cool. Kane McAuliffe apparently entered concussion protocols. I don't remember when that happened. But yeah, he is in concussion protocols, and legitimately, I think he was having injury issues as well. Harry Armstrong actually got sick, so he didn't play against West Coast, but he'll play against Collingwood from all reports. Morris Rioli Jr. apparently did well in the All-Stars game. He's had some injury issues. Tom Lynch, who has had about legitimately every injury issue ever, got concussed, and apparently is supposed to play against Collingwood, but who legitimately knows? And then, of course, the 6 ACL boys, there's not really too much of an... Jesus Christ, I'm just allergic to all the bullshit I'm hearing right now. I'm sorry. The 6 ACL boys, there hasn't really been much of an update, but it was being said that the Tigers want to get the ACL boys to have a clear 12-month recovery. So the only one who should be back anytime soon is Josh Gibcus. But as we heard, apparently Josh Gibcus's ACL recovery is taking longer than expected, and they don't expect him to play football anytime soon. Meaning that we're probably not going to see an ACL boy come back until, like, I think end of May, June or so, when I think Lafau should maybe be back, and I think Taj Houghton, that was a similar time, I think, when he did his ACL. But again, Houghton is a young guy, and they're very much going to ease him in. He might barely play VFL, you know, once he's back. Once he's done with his 12th month, he might play a quarter in the VFL. Maybe it goes to a half in the VFL. He gets to a full game. And then maybe by his 4th week, he'll be ready to maybe play AFL. But there's a lot of maybes and a lot of uncertainties there. End of the day is Richmond already have an injury list of like 13 players. And I know half of them are the ACL boys from last year. But it is still very, very concerning considering they've only played half a practice game. And I am scared till when the game comes up against Collingwood. And if we have a lot of injuries against them, I'm genuinely convinced something is really, really wrong at Richmond right now, and something is going on. Again, touch wood, there are no injuries, but you really don't know. Again, if you haven't already, please make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel for all the latest AFL content and news. Don't forget to comment your thoughts and opinions down below. What do you guys think about the Tigers having all of these constant injuries and whatnot? Again, I'd very much like to know your thoughts and opinions, and if you guys think the Tigers can bounce back and whatnot. Again, subscribe to my gaming channels and my IRL/vlog channels. Links for them will be in the description down below. And I guess I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.